Well, I could call you Sneakers
Oh, you read you read that?
or maybe
Oh,
Butch.
oh my God. I see I'm in trouble with this interview. You know too much.
Looking back, the sorrows and the pleasures. Looking back on all the things we've treasured.
I want my audience to know you are Herb Bernstein, and you have been a producer, composer, arranger, and a general Renaissance man since the 1960s. And before that, you were a fantastic basketball player. And today is your birthday, and we say happy birthday, and we want to reflect on a vivid life that you have lived together today.
Well, thanks. Just don't make it sound like it's over, okay?
So far, your life so far.
But you're very kind. You didn't mention how old I was today.
You're turning, is it 95 today?
Geez, don't make it worse.
Oh,
94.
okay, 94.
Right.
All right. Well, we want to hear all about it, all about those 94 years. And one thing that I think my audience will just love is to hear you spill the tea on all these celebrities you've worked with and met through the years. But first, let's talk about a little bit of your childhood.
Even when I was in trouble, to me, everything was. My dad said to me once, he says, Herb, he says, you have great quality. He says, nothing ever bothers you. I said, thanks, Dad. I said, why do you think that is? He says, because you're stupid. So that was my endearing father. So, no, I just, something, there's so, especially around here, a lot of people are depressed.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with age, in my opinion. I just can't do it. I just don't want to do it. I'm writing so I just wrote a really excellent song, I must say, called "Never Give Up Your Dream." This is a beautiful song. Never give up your dream, man. Don't quit on life. And
that's right.
Too many people do, and I just can't buy into that. When I was younger, well, really young, like 4 years old or so, I had sleep apnea. And I had a very difficult time sleeping. And my mother used to come into the room at night when I went to sleep. She'd sit on the side of my bed and sing all these wonderful songs that I play today. A little updated, but I play today. And my dad and I would always talk about things, and it was just wonderful. So I considered myself very much into myself. In other words, everything revolved around me.
Yeah.
And I think as a boy, it's very difficult to understand other people's problems, other people's possible negative evaluations of life and so on. And as a boy, I had no patience. And I was in more fights than here I am playing violin and piano, and I'm in every other day I'm in a fist fight. It was crazy, But a lot was my own ego, and as I say, too many things revolved around myself. I was probably insecure, and just had to show myself how good I was at that, how good I was at that. And when you ask me when did I sort of understand that other people had feelings too, and it was nice to do things for other people. It was late in life, I must say. It was I'd say probably when I was around 20.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that sounds old to you for discovering things,
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay, good. So I was around 20, And I was going to get my master's degree at NYU,
Hmm.
and the teacher there, Mr. Johnson, just I don't know, he sort of took a liking to me,
Hmm.
and we spoke and we talked, and I don't know, it just made so much sense, about so many things that I never even considered. And I think that year, my last year at NYU, kind of woke me up that there's more things out there than myself. And
That's beautiful.
now I'm 94, and I'm almost like a social worker here because I give a concert every Tuesday night here.
Hmm.
I make them laugh and I make them cry, and I really I'm doing it from the heart. I'm not
Hmm.
doing it for accolades. They don't pay me. I'm not doing it for money, but I'm getting so much enjoyment more now than ever before in my life. So you say, how do you discover things at 90 years? I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's not, because I get so much happiness when I talk to someone who just is so down and so distraught with life, and they're here in this, assisted living place, and they'd rather be home, and
Hmm.
uh, through me, they're smiling and laughing and starting to feel a little better about things. I feel so great. I can't tell you. It's like a gift. And
Sure.
if I had my choice now, I think I would become a pastor or something.
Well, our show emphasizes intergenerational topics. And one thing I noticed in your memoir was throughout your life, starting with when you were playing in the streets in Brooklyn with just everybody, you had friends of all different ages. And I noted that time you went to the concert as a 12-year-old with the two young ladies and had
That
such
was
a great time.
that was an experience that I'll never forget. When I was a kid, every summer we would go up to a different place, usually up in the Catskills with my parents. So this one summer, I was 12. I just quit playing violin and started to learn on my own, started to learn piano, actually when I was 10. And I was getting pretty good, pretty advanced for a 10-year-old and who never took any lessons. And anyway, we went to this place. It was in a place called Shrub Oak. It's up near Peekskill in New York. And so while we were up there were these two young ladies. One was 22, the other was 29, Marge and Gert, and they were absolutely beautiful. So to say I was mesmerized would be an understatement. They loved the way I was starting to play piano, and they knew I was just a beginner. And anyway, they asked my mother if I could. First, they asked me if I would want to come with them back to the city and spend a few days with them. And I said, "Yeah, you kidding? Of course." So at any rate, I said, "But I have to ask my mother." So I asked my mother, and she said, "Yeah, go ahead." My mother was very lenient.
Uh-huh.
Someone else might have said no, but anyway, so we went to the city, and they owned a triplex on Park Avenue. Pardon me, and very wealthy, and just a great, beautiful, rich, and loved music. And so one night, they said, one afternoon actually, Marge, the younger one, the 22-year-old, said to me, Herb, we'd like to go to this club tonight. Would you like to come with us? I said, sure. I didn't even know what it was, but I said, sure. So anyway, it ended up we went. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and we went to a club on 52nd Street in Manhattan. In those days, 52nd Street was the place.
Oh, yeah.
They had all the jazz clubs and everything. So anyway, they were going to a club called the Three Deuces, and
And
all
and
the
you were going to get in at age 12?
at 12. Well, I was with them. They let me in, as long as I didn't drink.
Okay.
I had, I think, three Shirley Temples and got stoned. But anyway, so we went in, and oh yeah, they let me in. And they knew everyone tipped the maitre d'. We sat right up front on stage, with a little spotlight on the piano, and we just waited for the player, the musician, to come out and play. And so we sat there and talked. And anyway, out came this fellow, and his name was Art Tatum. Now, any musician will know Art Tatum, because Art Tatum was one of, well, without question, one of the top 5 or 6 jazz pianists ever. That includes Oscar Peterson and George Shearing. All these. He was sensational. And anyway, he came out and he played, and I was mesmerized. I couldn't take my eyes off him, and he kind of was mesmerized with me. Seeing this little kid sitting there, just taking it all in and being thrilled by what he was playing. And I'll never forget, he asked me my name, and he said, Herb, I never sing, but he says, I feel like singing tonight, so I'm going to sing. And he played the song and he sang it. The name of the song was called The Nearness of You. And just a beautiful, beautiful love song about being near to someone. It's not the pale moon that excites me or thrills and delights me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. It's a beautiful song.
Uh-huh.
He played it. I was mesmerized, and I swore right there and then that if I didn't play piano, I'm going to shoot myself. I'm going to be like Art Tatum someday.
Oh.
The truth is, I never succeeded in reaching his amount of proficiency, but I got pretty good, and
Oh, yeah.
and uh, and it was just that started everything. So from that time on, when I was 12, that was it. The piano, the piano. Of course, sports was involved too. That's another story. But anyway, so listening to Art Tatum at the Three Deuces that night with Marge and Gert, it was just an experience I'll never forget.
What role did religion play in your upbringing?
Uh, what should I say? See, my dad was actually, my folks were kind of religious. I was not. I was too busy either playing the piano or violin or shooting pool or playing ball. I didn't have time to go to temple. But as a matter of fact, my dad used to kid me all the time, because my brother Jay would meet him there, like Yom Kippur. It's a whole day of atonement, for the Jewish people. And my dad would go there like 9 in the morning and stay until they have the shofar. It's a ram's horn, and when they blow that at night, the holiday is over. So he'd stay there until dark, till they blew the shofar. And so my brother would join him around 2 in the afternoon and sit with them. And I used to time it till it just started getting dark. And then I'd go to the temple. It was on Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn. And I'd go there, and as it's getting dark, as the guy's picking up the chauffeur to blow it, I'm walking in. And he was like, Jesus, can't you get here a half hour early once in a while? Well, I was not too much into it. I did get bar mitzvahs, but I was never really that much. When I went to SMU, I got a basketball scholarship to SMU, and that was, I think it was 1945. And when I got there, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and it was more against the blacks. But the religion itself never really guided me that much. I'm sorry to say, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to hear more about some of the people that you knew that some of our audience would know. And I wanted to just mention a few names. So I'll do a lot of the name dropping for you, and then you
Oh,
can pick up on whichever ones you want to share about. But Herb worked with people and met people such as Bob Dylan, John Denver, the Four Seasons, the Monkees. That was my personal favorite when I was little.
right.
Dusty Springfield, Laney Kazan, Leslie Gore, Liberace. He worked on songs such as Leaving on a Jet Plane, Brink of Disaster, Go Away Little Girl, See You in September. And you ran into and rubbed elbows with people like Ella Fitzgerald, Barbara Streisand, Bill Cosby, Jimmy Durante, show hosts like Merv Griffin, Dick Cavett. I had a crush on Dick Cavett when I was a kid.
Yeah, oh, he was great.
Johnny
Great.
Carson, Sinatra. Pick out a few luminaries for us and give us some anecdotes.
Okay. Well, uh, what should I say? You don't want me to start with a negative one, right?
Oh, go ahead. We love that kind of stuff.
Well, let me start by saying this. I was strictly in the recording end of things. So when you talk about Tina Turner, when I worked with Tina, she was it was with a fellow named Bob Crew. Bob had a group called the Four Seasons, and I'm sure a lot of you heard of Jersey Boys, which has been a very successful Broadway show for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And anyway, Bob liked what he heard, and we met, and he liked me, and I liked him, and his brother Dan and I were just fell in love. Dan was such a great guy, and the reason I couldn't get in with Bob is he had a fellow named Charlie Coelho. Charlie was an arranger. Charlie did exactly what I do, and they were having hit after hit. Uh, I mean, walk like a man, talk like a man. Yeah, I didn't Frankie Valley. Uh, I can't take my eyes on you're too good to be true. Can't take my eyes. It's one song after the next that Bob wrote with his writing partner Bob Cordio. So I was trying to get in with them because I thought there's no way to ever get a hit record. I just can't do it. I had all these songs I thought were hits, never, nothing, not even close to a hit. So at any rate, finally, Charlie comes to me one day. He says, Herb, I'm going to do you a favor. I said, what's that? He says, I just took a job with CBS, and it's an exclusive contract. So I can't work for Bob anymore. So I'm going to be working at CBS and doing all that production and or at least some of it, and arranging. And he said, so it's all yours. So when I went to Bob, I said, is it true Charlie's leaving? He says, yeah, you're hired.
Oh,
So,
great.
so anyway, Bob hired me, and we had a lot of hits together with the Four Seasons, and we recorded Tina Turner together, and Leslie Gore, and just on and on and on. And we wrote together, and it was just a great experience. So while I was at Bob's office, and this is really what did everything for me, I was there, and I get a call from one of my ex-students, and she says, Mr. Bernstein, I have a cousin who plays and sings, and I'm saying to myself, oh Christ, how do I get out of this? you know. She says, if we could come and see you, I'd really appreciate it. I said, well, I don't know. I tried to get out of it. I couldn't. She was very persistent. So she came up to the office and she brought a girl who I'm sure you never heard of, but it led to everything. Her name was Norma Tanega, Tanega. Norma was a great acoustic guitar player, and she wrote the weirdest songs you ever heard. She wrote like a street that rhymes at 6 a.m. What the hell does that mean? I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And anyway, this was in 1965, and so she started writing. She started playing me all these songs, and I thought she was terrific. But these songs were just I don't know. I mean, they were so esoteric. You're dead. That was another one.
Mm-hmm.
You're dead. I don't know, just the weirdest songs. And then she played me something. I said, Norma, there's something about this song that gets me. I think we could have a hit with it.
Mm.
She said, think so? I said, yeah, just let me do it my way. We'll do it rock, not like a folk tune. And the name of the song was Walking My Cat Named Dog. And to make a long story short, we sold 800,000 records.
Wow.
It was a monster record out in LA, and we did pretty well in the New York area, but we sold about 800,000. And that made me a little bit of an entity. So
Mhm.
before I knew it, I don't know, it was maybe a couple of weeks later, I get a call from Bob. He says, Herb, listen, I want to set something up with you. There's a guy named Milt Oken who'd like to meet with you. He has a girl singer, and he'd like possibly to have you do the arrangement. I said, all right, fine. So we set up a meeting, and Milt comes in, and nice guy, very nice. Milt was a manager of Peter, Paul, and Mary, John Denver, the Brothers Four, the Chas Mitchell Trio,
Mhm.
uh, and now he's bringing me a little girl. She's about 18, and her name is Laura Nyro. And so I said, well, uh, look, I'm happy to work with you, Milt. I know your reputation, but I don't know. I don't know her. He said, well, she'll play a couple of songs. So she sits down at the piano and she plays Wedding Bell Blues, Stony End, and When I Die, Sweet Blindness, just on and on. I was dizzy. So, my book, I say, I don't know, maybe I should have been more, I don't know, more business like. Well, Milt, I think you have. No, I was overwhelmed, and I told him, I said, I'd love to work with her. My God, she's fantastic.
Oh,
And he says, well, look, I'll be honest with you. We're meeting with three or four other arrangers, and so it's up to Laura. She'll pick whoever she wants. So I don't know. I guess it was 2 or 3 days later. I get a call from Milt. He says, "Look, Herb, Laura loves you. I love you, and so let's go. We want you to do it."
oh,
So that started my relationship with Laura Nyro. And our
uh-huh.
first album, it was called The More Than a New Discovery, and it was voted in 1990 something. It was voted into the Grammy Hall of Fame.
Mm.
And so I was happy with that, because I put it all together. And uh, there were a lot of negatives. A lot of people, her fans, thought I didn't give her enough leeway. In other words, I didn't let her play piano. But
Uh-huh.
but my thinking was, she's 18. Uh, why put that pressure on her? Let her just sing her songs. I'll have a
Yeah.
great piano player. Also, I changed a few of her songs a little bit, and she wasn't, like technically she wasn't a reader. What I mean? She what she wrote and everything was fabulous, but you couldn't give her an arrangement to
Mhm.
play, and play all the innuendos. So I decided not to use her as a pianist. A lot of people criticize me for that, but I don't know. I was getting used to criticism.
You got to have a thick skin, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, that began. Laura and I had a great relationship. I loved her dearly. I know she loved me, and but however, she had a falling out with Milt Oken and his two partners, a guy named Artie Mogul and a fellow named Paul Barry, because they had her management, her publishing, her everything.
Mhm.
And along came a guy named David Geffen and put his 2 cents in, and things got a little ugly. I won't go into it. 'Cause I don't want to say anything negative on this.
Okay.
Uh, but what happened? Laura cut out. She dropped them all, dropped me, dropped everyone, and went on to do her own thing. Did she have a great career? Yeah, she was fantastic. But only one album is in the Hall of Fame.
That was one you worked on.
That first album. So, say what you want, but I'm thrilled about it. And that led to other things. So after Laura Nyro, now a fellow named Hank Medris called me, and Hank was with a group called the Tokens. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They had a big record, a song called Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Oh yeah.
And that was a big one. And they were producing a group, and they wanted me to do the arranging. They were going to produce, I was going to arrange, and the name of the group was The Happenings. So when I heard them sing, I said, I don't know, Hank. They're so much like the Four Seasons. I don't want to. I don't want to turn Bob off. Bob Crew. He's got me working with the seasons. We just done Don't Think Twice. We did a tune called Ivy with Frankie Valli. It was beautiful for a film, and I didn't want to hurt my relationship, with either the Four Seasons or with Bob. And so I went to. I said, "Look, Hank, I'd love to do it, but I'm going to go to Bob, and if he's going to be upset with me, I can't do it." So I went to Bob, and Bob said, "Look, Herb, you know how many groups have been trying to imitate the Four Seasons? There's 1,000 groups out there. They're trying to do what we do. They can't do it. So you want to know something? Go make the money, get paid, charge them good, make a lot of money, and we'll move on here, at my office." I said, "Okay, great." So we went in and we recorded a little tune called "See You in September,"
Oh wow.
which was, I think it was number 2 on the national chart.
Yeah.
And so then Hank called me, says, "Herb, we got to go right back in the studio." I said, "Fine." So he sent me the tunes they wanted to record for me to write. The next tune was "Go Away, Little Girl."
Yeah.
So we sold about 1 million on that. The next tune was "I Got Rhythm." I think we did 1.5 million on that one.
Uh,
Now the funniest story of all is the Tokens, mainly Hank, and the Happenings had a falling out. And as is unfortunate in our business, it happens a lot. People leave their manager, they leave their producer, their arranger, whatever. They feel they want to go on somewhere else. Something else seems more attractive. But at any rate, Hank said I called for a session. They don't want to show up. They want to do their own producing. I said, "Well, don't you have a contract with them?" He says, "Yes, we do." And they're not honoring the contract. So what I'm doing, I'm calling a session. You're going to write 4 arrangements. I'm going to send you 4 BS tunes that mean nothing. Don't even just write anything, because I don't care. I'm just doing it to cost them money and make them understand that they have a contract and they can't just walk away.
whoa.
So I said, "Geez, Hank, I hate to do that. I mean, maybe they just don't get it. He says, "That's what it is. So either you do it or I'll get someone else." I said, "Look, I'll do it, but I hate to do that. Just phone in 4 arrangements." So anyway, it came down to he sent me the arranger, he sent me the songs. So I listened to the first 3 songs, just dumb songs. Old things that maybe George Gershwin wrote when he was 12 years old or something. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina. Yeah, I mean, just ridiculous songs he sent me. So I just wrote a couple of notes. I felt terrible, because I was just phoning it in. And then I look at the next song. It's a song called "Mammy." Remember Al Jolson? Well, you're too young,
Yes.
but Al Jolson used to sing it.
Al
And
Jolson. Yeah.
major song for Al Jolson. "Mammy, Mammy, the sun shines east, the sun shines west." Well, I just thought, something. This could be a hit if we start off with like a barbershop quartet. "Everything looks rosy when you start to roam. Here's what you'll be saying when you're far from home." Then into rhythm. Dip, 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 da, 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 dip. Mammy. Well, it just seemed to me like it could be something. And I gave it that. You could tell I was working with the Four Seasons, because when we went into Mammy, it had that Four Seasons beat.
Oh yeah, that bright chord.
Yeah. And so anyway, we did it, and it turned out so fantastic. Hank called me. He says, "Listen," he says, "that's so good. I think we're going to record it as the Tokens." He says, "The
Wow.
hell with the happenings." I said, "Hank, you can't do that. I mean, first of all, you charge them for the session, and now, of course, it's so good, you don't want to give it." He says, "I don't know." Anyway, I'm happy to say he changed his mind, and he called the happenings. I guess I don't know all the intricacies, but they decided to do it, and we sold like 1 million and I don't know how many. It was on the charts, and it was just funny, out of what he considered garbage, we ended up with a hit, Mammy. So
Mhm.
we had a lot of success with them. Then after that, now all of a sudden, for 15 years, I couldn't get in anyone's office to get a song recorded. Now all of a sudden, I was a genius. Oh, Herb, I call her Bernstein. Yeah, it was funny, but it was one wonderful, wonderful years for me, because in between '66 and '67, I sold something like 42 million records.
Wow.
So it was just overwhelming, and I was thrilled. John Denver, Tina Turner,
What was John Denver like?
John. I love John. He was just a sweetheart. Just what you see, that's what you got. Just the nicest night, and we had more laughs. Uh, I don't know. You see, I didn't mention Julie Budd to you,
Yeah.
and Julie was a young lady I met in 1966. I was up in the Catskills with my family, and this guy, the athletic director, came to me. I was just starting to. I had just met Hank Medras. I had just met Laura Nyro. Things are just starting to buzz for me. I even had a little chart record with a thing called Guilty. It was with a group called the Crests, a fellow named Johnny Maestro, and so that hit the charts. So sometimes you get lucky. Everything you do is successful, and
Uh-huh.
other times, no matter what you do, it's a bomb. So I just hit that spell where I don't know what it was. Everything was just working out. So in '66, I was in the Catskills, and the athletic director came up and he said, "There's a young girl here who is such a great singer, you won't believe it." I said, "What's her name?" He says, "Edie Erdman."
Huh.
I said, "Edie Erdman." Well, I said, "What does she do?" He says, "Well, she's only 12 years old." I said, "Look, I spent the last 15 years trying to get in the door. Now I'm having success, so I'm going to start with a 12-year-old?" I said, "Forget it. I'm not interested." He says, "Herb, she's amazing. You won't believe your ears." He says, so I said, I just can't do it. I'm so sorry. I mean, I adore you, and I'm sure she's a sweet girl. But at any rate, one thing led to another. I get a knock on my door one day. "Hello, Mr. Bernstein?" I said, "Yeah. My name is Edie Erdman. I see this kid. She looked about 8 years old." I couldn't believe it. I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I'm a singer." I said, "You're a singer?" She says, "I'm doing a show Saturday night, and it's like a talent show. And they had a new club that seated about 1,800 people. It's a lovely club." And she said, "Would you come and hear me?" I said, "Well, I don't know if I'm going to be in town. I have to go back to this, humming, yeah. So anyway, I copped out. So later that afternoon, I'm playing tennis. As you know by reading the book, I was a jock. So I'm on the tennis court, and I hit a ball into the net. This little kid comes running out, grabs the ball, throws it back to me. I said, "Edie?" She said, I said, "Edie, you're going to get hurt." She said, "I just thought I'd help you." I said, "Please give me a break." you know, uh, I said, I'll come and see you. Okay, I promise. So anyway, she went off the court. Later that day, we were playing three-man basketball with some guests. And those games can get a little rough. The guests are in their 30s and they think they're still in shape. We at the time were in our 20s, and really were in shape. And so it was kind of bloodshed. So I go up for a rebound. I come down with the ball, and someone knocks the ball out of my hand. And this little kid comes running, grabs the ball. Edie Erdman.
Wow.
This went on and on. I couldn't believe it. So finally, it was a hot day. It was in the summer. And I dove in the pool in the deep end. And I go underwater, and I take, like 2 or 3 little strokes underwater. I come up face to face with Edie Erdman. I said,
She's
Edie,
stalking you.
Edie, I swear to you, please, I'll come to your show. Spare me. Yeah, I'm going to come to your show. So to make a long story short, I did go to her show. It was the worst piece of crap I ever saw in my life. Not her, but they had Mr. and Mrs. Whatever, Schwartz doing twin violins, and someone playing glasses, empty wine glasses to Flight of the Bumblebee. I mean, some guy, some baritone. If I love you, and by now I was on like my 12th drink. I said, "Geez, I'm gonna kill that kid." Now the MC says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have this young lady, Edie Erdman." Out walks this kid. So help me God, I was flabbergasted. She looked about 8 or 10 years old, but dressed really smart. Came out, grabbed the mic off the stand, and said to the band leader, "I do this in A flat." I mean, you would have thought it was Edie Gomez, and then start to sing, "Who can I turn to if nobody needs me? My heart wants to know, and so I must go where destiny leads me." I nearly fell on the floor. I swear to you, as sure as we're talking, she sounded like she was at least 25.
Uh-huh.
She didn't have a kiddie voice. It was magnificent. So to make a long story even longer, this can go on for days. But I decided to work with her. I met her family, and they trusted me, and they let her come into the city with me. At the time, I was recording Laura Nyro, and so she and Laura met, and they became kind of good friends. Uh, and so a dear friend of mine named Lee Salomon was a major agent at William Morris. So I called. I said, "You got to hear this girl. I tried to pass on her, but I heard her singing." I said, "You." So anyway, he rounded up all the brass at William Morris, and he called me. and Says, "Okay, I got a great audition." He said, "She better be as good as you say, or I'm going to kill you." And she went in. We did Johnny One Note, and it was a great arrangement, I must say. It was like up tempo. Johnny could only sing one note, and the note he sang was this, ah. And then she'd hold one note for, I don't know, it felt like about half an hour, And the band would play under do ba do ba do ba boo da do ba do ba do ba boo ba da ba do ba do ba. The band's playing, swinging under, and she's just holding this note. Anyway, she finished the song. They went berserk, signed her on the spot. And the next thing I knew, we were working with Danny Thomas in Westbury. We were working. Well, first of all, I was recording Merv Griffin, so I introduced her to Merv. Merv put her on 40 Merv Griffin shows. 40.
Wow.
And then the Carson show, and then Dick Cavett, and then one after. It was unbelievable. And then finally, Ed Sullivan. And Ed Sullivan gave her 5. Those of your followers who get the internet, go on the internet. Julie Budd, my favorite is when she was 14, and it was one of her first appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show, and she's singing "If I Ruled the World."
Oh.
I promise you, Merv Griffin used to say on the show, I listened to this kid sing, and my socks were rolling up and down. I couldn't control myself, and I promise you, you'll fall in love. This kid, fantastic presence, and her.
Well, and that led to a lifelong
So
friendship, didn't
changed
it?
my career. I guess that's why I started this whole stuff. That changed my career. I was not doing as many recording sessions as I was doing concerts with Julie. And now William Morris calls me and they want us to work with Bill Cosby in Vegas. And
Oh yeah, give us some impressions of some of these other people. Bill
okay,
Cosby was kind of sweet and sour, mostly sour.
well, well, I feel bad what happened to him. I don't like to see that happen to anyone. But when we met him, everything was fine. Lionel Hampton was on the show. Lionel Hampton, Julie, and Bill Cosby. I always loved Bill Cosby's work. He had Fat Albert. He had all those funny things. Uh, he did the show. To be honest with you, he didn't spend 2 minutes preparing for it because Lionel Hampton blew him away. They loved him. Julie, they flipped out. Here's this little pisher. She looked 8, 10 years old, singing with violins and big orchestra and everything, and got great reviews. They flipped over. Bill Cosby, down, thumbs down, terrible reviews. He was doing stuff like, "Anyone have a wedding here? Oh, very nice. And how about an engagement? Yeah. Oh, he'd go over to some woman who was there, probably with her grandson, young kid. How long have you two been married? You know, I mean, he didn't do any of his real good shtick. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what. I found out later that he was pissed off because some white fella, a guy named Ron Silver, had some sort of I don't know what it was, some company or some film company, and he invested about, I don't know, $4 or $5 million in it. And they went bust in no time. It was a real failure. And from what I understand, and I don't want to pass rumors, but it was common knowledge at the time. I'm sorry. He didn't like Ron Silver being Jewish and white, and his Julie at the time. Oh, by this time we had changed Edie Erdman's name to Julie Budd,
Yeah.
and he didn't like her. So anyway, one night in the casino, Bill comes to me and says, "Listen, Herb," he says, "I'm going to have to let Julie go." I said, "What are you talking about? We have a 2-week contract." He says, "Well, contracts are made to be broken." I said, "Well, that's not right. I mean, she's doing great. People love her." He said, "Yeah. How old is she?" I said, 15. He says, "Well, she belongs in school." I said, "Look, Bill, you'll forgive me if I say so, but that's not your call. Her parents are very happy. I take good care of that kid, like if she's my own kid. No one fools around with her, no one hits on her. She doesn't do drugs. She gets
Mhm.
to bed at a reasonable hour when possible. And, you know, she's, she even does her work. I used to be a teacher. I helped her with the schoolwork. I said, so don't tell me that she should be back in school. He said,
Mhm.
well, I think she should be back. I hired another person. You already hired someone? Yeah. I found out it was a black singer named Retta Hughes. I said, look, Retta may be great. I knew of some of her work. She's a good singer. But Julie was not only a great singer, but she was a novelty. A kid
Right.
that age with that kind of voice, with those kind of chops. He says, well, she's finished. So I called William Morris, but they didn't stick up for me or Julie because
Mhm.
after all, they made millions with Bill Cosby. They're not going
Yeah.
to stick up for us and maybe make 50,000 for the year, So anyway, I was wild. I was going to sue them because we did have a contract, and so I'm packing our things, and the phone the phone rings, and who is it? It's a fellow named Dave Victorson. Dave Victorson was the booker for Caesar's Palace, also in Vegas. This was in Vegas, and he says, Herb, how'd you like to have lunch tomorrow? I said, well, we were planning to go back to New York. I'm really disgusted. He said, don't be disgusted. He said, today's your lucky day.
Mhm.
Have lunch tomorrow. He says, don't worry about it. I'll pick up whatever extra you have to pay for staying over. He says, I got one better. Come stay at Caesar's Palace and you'll be our guest. So after we packed our things, went to Caesar's Palace. I met Dave for lunch. He said, look, Herb, I saw Julie's show opening night. That kid is beyond belief. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So he says, I'll tell you what, we want to make a deal here at Caesar's Palace. I said, sure. What is it? He says, well, how much were you making there? So I said, we're making 7,500 a week. He says, I'll tell you what, let's start at 12,500 a week, and I'll give you a 3-year contract,
Well,
4 weeks each year. So the first week in the first year, you'll get paid 12,500. Then the second week, you'll get 15,000, then 17,500, and 20,000 by the end of the first year. Don't forget, she was 15.
yeah.
20,000 a week. A couple of years ago, I was happy to make 20,000 in a year. I wasn't even making that much.
Mhm.
So I said, well, how about the second and third year? Anyway, it ended up getting 50,000 a week. A week.
Wow.
I said, okay. So we took the deal, of course. Went back to New York, happy as could be, and I get a call from Davey Victorson. It couldn't have been more than 2 weeks later. He says, Herb, I have the first engagement for you. I said, great. I said, what is it? He says, never mind, what is it? Who is it? I said, all right, who is it? He says, Frank Sinatra.
Oh man.
I'm, you
Wow.
know, I mean,
That's the big time.
it was flabbergasting, So, yeah, he gave me the details. He said, we're going to pay her a little extra money. He says, now, one thing you have to know, he's got a 40-piece orchestra. So can you get her arrangements to 40 pieces? I know you don't have them for that. I said, yeah, I'll have to. I said, yeah. So anyway, we took the deal with Sinatra. 2 weeks later, we went out to Vegas. And see, what I'm trying to say is that from the time, I was recording all these rock and roll artists and contemporary artists trying to make hit records. Now, all of a sudden, because of Julie, we found ourselves working with Frank Sinatra, of course, Bill Cosby, uh, Danny Thomas, Jimmy Durante, George Burns. Oh my God, I fell in love with George, with George Burns.
What was he like?
Oh, George. Oh man. The thing I liked about George, I think, he reminds me of in a way is
Uh,
Mel Brooks. Mel,
Mel Brooks, yeah.
because Mel Brooks is now, I believe, 98, 99,
Uh-huh.
and he's still going. He's still funny. He's still writing. You
Yeah.
know, uh, other people, I won't mention names. But one guy was a national treasure as a comedian, but as he got older, he was corny. He wasn't funny.
Hmm.
And George Burns was still funny, chasing the broads, chasing the broads. I said, what are you going to do if you find one? Broads. He says, I don't remember, but I chased them. And he'd
Ted,
done,
I want to hear about Sinatra. What was he like to be around?
okay, well, Frank, I'm sure anyone who knew him will tell you, Frank was like, uh, he was one way 1 minute, the other way the next minute. Uh,
Hmm.
you never knew where you stood with him. Now, he did a lot of nice things for people that people aren't even aware of, like helping children who were underprivileged or incapacitated. I remember when Don, again, I'm having trouble with last names, Don Costa. Don was a great arranger, had a terrible heart attack and needed a transplant. Sinatra paid for the whole thing. I mean, he did so many nice things for people. So, I mean, I'm not talking bad about him because I guess when you're that big a star, people can bug you to death. You know, I
Yeah.
remember backstage with him one time. Was standing and talking, and one young fellow comes up, puts his arm around, hey Frank, Frank like brushes him off.
Oh,
So
ooh.
in this guy's opinion, Frank's a bad guy. But it's got to be annoying. Everywhere you go, people putting their arm around. Hey, Frank. Hey, how they hanging? How do they?
Mhm.
So I could understand that. But uh, yeah,
Did any of the artists that you were around get really nervous about performing?
well, it's funny you should ask. One guy that you wouldn't imagine, and that was Don Rickles.
Mhm.
Don was
A
hosting.
comedian?
Don Rickles, a comedian, yeah, a
Mhm.
well-known comedian. See, you're too young.
No, I
I
remember
like
Don
talking to
Rickles.
old people. But Don Rickles was a great, but very abrasive. That was his shtick. He was the nicest guy you could want to meet, but very abrasive. Hey, man, your hand's on my stage. You want to move your goddamn hand? I mean, he was just very aggressive, but funny, funny, funny. He was co-hosting the Tonight Show. Not co-host, he was hosting the Tonight Show. And he came up to me afterwards. Says, "How did I do? I mean, I never saw anyone so nervous. How
Oh,
did I do? Did I talk too much? I tried not to be abrasive. Bob Newhart was on the show. He says, when I introduced Bob, I tried, and I'm saying to myself, how could a guy who is he was known for his cutting humor.
uh-huh.
Anyone in that era who knew Rickles knew him. He was
Mhm.
a real wise guy. I mean, he knocked everyone. If he saw a couple together, he'd find something funny to say. What's she doing with a dog like you? It's the, but so for a guy you knew who was aggressive, he seemed so nervous. And
Uh-huh.
Bob Newhart blew me away. He says, "Listen, Don, stop being so nervous." He said, "You did a nice show tonight." He says it was kind of like a tribute to yourself. So I
Oh,
some of these guys, most of them, truthfully, I'm not saying it just to color a rosy picture. Most of them are really nice people. Jim
was
Nabors was the greatest, just the great. Another thing, let me say this before we get off Sinatra. Sinatra loved Julie, and he was so nice to Julie, and she
mhm,
loved him. She thought he was just the greatest. And
mhm.
she used to ask him questions about lighting, about this, about that, and he couldn't have been nicer. I myself personally kept my distance because I don't know, I just didn't feel he needed. He had all these guys around him, and
Mhm,
everyone around him. I didn't want to be one of the masses, And
mhm.
what happens with celebrities that I discovered was that a lot of people they meet a Carol Burnett or they meet a Liberace, they meet and they don't know what to say. These are big stars, and they say the dumbest things. You know, oh, do you have an aunt? Because I met a dentist, and I'm saying to myself, what the, they don't know what to say, and,
Uh-huh.
and especially around Sinatra, people want to be hip, man.
Uh-huh.
And they'd say the dumbest things. And if I were him, I'd be pissed off too, or just keep my distance. So with Julie, he was really nice, and the engagement went great.
Tell us about Johnny Carson. I've heard kind of mixed things about him.
Well, see, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. Most of my dealings with these people were in working out with their managers, the money situation for
Mm,
Julie,
yeah.
and then how many tunes we get.
Mhm.
Was he going to panel her? I didn't want her to go on the show without getting on the panel. I know a lot of people say he was not a nice guy. I don't know. Honestly, I never saw that side of him. To me, he was always sweet to us, nice to me, great to Julie, and he was just a nice guy. I don't think he took himself. See, some of these people who become celebrities take themselves very serious.
Uh-huh.
And when I start having a lot of success, honest to God, I never took myself that serious. I pardon my French, but I never bullshitted myself. You know what I mean? And to this day, I don't like to BS myself. If I write a song, I'm the first one to say, Herb, it's not so great. Let's trash it. We'll work on something. I don't need someone to come along and tell, but I don't have to pretend everything I do is wonderful and marvelous. And
I uh,
you
I
know,
remember your album, Herb Bernstein's New
oh,
Crusade.
you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
Metro Media called me, a fellow named Len Levy. They wanted me to do an album, my own album. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. There was a new company called Metro Media. And so I did the album. I was trying to get a new sound just to go in and do instrumentals. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me. So like Herb Alpert had his sound,
Right.
you want a brass. So I was trying to get a sound. So I featured a tuba as a lead, a low pitch, and it was very different. But I'm going to tell you something funny. When we finished the album, I didn't like it at all. There was one cut in there. I did a tribute to a guitarist named Wes Montgomery. To this day, I love that cut. Just very hip. It still feels up to date. It feels great. I did not like the album. The tuba is the lead. To me, sounded like crap. And I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
So they liked the album, but uh, as a matter of fact, there's a big joke that goes with that album. Uh, it was called Herb Bernstein's New Crusade.
Mhm.
So we were shooting the album cover. So it was supposed to be me on a white horse, and thank God I could ride horseback from my SMU days in Dallas. So they wanted me on a white horse with a big, like what would you call, like a banner, like the Vikings, in armor, in a suit of armor with a
Uh-huh.
helmet and all that. And so that was great. I agreed to it. Everything was fine. Comes the day we're supposed to shoot. There's a snowstorm, a blizzard. We were supposed to do it out on Jones Beach in New York. So we had to change it. He said, "We got to shoot indoors because I need the album cover. We can't wait." So I said, "All right." So we go indoors, but now they can't get the horse. So we had to figure something else out. So they got this belly dancer, Tamara, her name was. And at the time, she was a well-known belly dancer. And they got this other guy. He looked like a rabbi with like Manischewitz. It looked like a comedy album instead of a serious music album. But anyway, this girl is Tamara. As we're shooting, she's got her hands all over me. She's playing around. She was just fooling around. She's got her hands on. She kissed me on the neck. So I hear two guys, two light men on the side, and one says to the other, he says, "Listen," he says, "Who's that girl there, the belly dancer?" And the other guy says, "Her name is Tamara." He says, "She's pretty hot. He says, "Any way I could get her number?" And the other guy says to him, "Well," he says, "I don't have a number, but why don't you ask the schmuck in armor?"
You're the schmuck in
I'm the
armor.
schmuck in armor. So for the next 20 years, I was a schmuck in armor. So I never got a big head.
Oh yeah.
But
You know,
anyway, but I'll tell you,
my,
just to finish, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
that's right.
But just lately, and this is the weirdest thing, just lately I'm getting calls from people. The fellow named Mark B from Toronto. he has this record coming. They do a lot of jazz releases. And he says, Herb, I was just listening to your new Crusade. I love it. He says, the rhythm is great. He says, who do I speak to reorder it, to put it out again?
Oh,
I said, well, I don't know. I have to speak to Metromedia. I don't think they're still in business. I'll track it down.
oh,
He says, I have a lot of contacts. He
huh.
says, would you consider reissuing it? And to tell you the truth, I don't really like the album.
Well,
But
let me throw out a couple of ideas that we'll be closing in a little bit. But
okay.
I was reading a quote from Dr. Gene Cohen. He's a psychologist, was a psychologist and expert on aging. And he was talking about the stages of life. And he said after 70 is the encore stage, when we celebrate our accomplishments and reaffirm our values. And you're a musician. Does that image of an encore ring true to you for this stage of your life?
No, I'll tell you what. No, I'll tell you what. Not for me personally. You see, for
Hmm.
other people, I'm sure it does. It sounds legitimate, and I'm sure he's much wiser than I am, But for me, no. And I'll tell you why. I never even thought about age until recently. So when I was 70, didn't mean anything. I was out playing singles tennis. I was playing in tennis tournaments. So
Wow.
to think, wow, should I look back on my life and my credits or whatever, my failures or whatever? It never dawned on me. Honest to God, it never dawned on me. More recently, uh, when people tell me, "Wow, you're not bad for an older." I'll tell you a funny story. This guy this morning called me, and I won't mention his name. Lovely guy. He's about, I think he just turned 60. So he called me this morning to wish me a happy birthday. And I said, "Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much." He says, "Yeah, that's so great." He says, "Boy," he says, "when I get to be your age, I hope I look as good as you." I said, "Well, thank you, but frankly, you don't look as good as me now." But he laughed. He knew I was joking. I think I was joking. I'm not sure.
You kind of remind me of a character from the Hebrew scriptures a little bit.
Oh,
David was, of course, a supernaturally gifted musician who wrote the Psalms, and his son wrote Song of Solomon, which I've always thought probably was set to music. It was probably um, maybe one of many, maybe even a lot of the proverbs that he wrote were set to music.
absolutely.
So
Yes.
he may have been a musician, but he had it in his blood, and he had a different kind of spirituality than his father. But one thing he said was that you can't do better in this life under the sun than to enjoy the work that you do. And it seems like that's something that would resonate with you.
Well, without question, Leah, without question. For example, I'm in this retirement home, assisted living, some wonderful people here, and the usual array of jerks. I'm not going to paint a rosy picture, but some nice people. But the thing is, for me, if I have a piano in my room, so every day I play every day. And
Hmm.
when I was hot in the business, when I was really swinging, I never played piano half as much as I do now. I didn't have the time. I was busy writing songs, writing arrangements, going recording, going on the road with Julie, doing everything. But now, pretty much what I do is sit at the piano and play. And I'm starting to feel some arthritis in my hand, which is getting me a little nervous. But
Mm.
luckily, my downward movement is okay. somehow trying to go up. Or luckily, if I try to make a fist, this fingers, so it keeps me out of fights. So it's a good thing. I can't make a fist. I really, really do not think about age. I do at this point, to be honest with Dr. Cohn, uh, I do think about some of my old projects, and but mostly I think upon them very favorably. For example, Laura Nyro. I recorded with Laura in 1966, and here they've just released an 8 album set. They're always talking about that album I did with her that's in the Hall of Fame. I never saw so many Laura Nyro fans. I mean, I'm in shock, to be honest with you. People are still Laura Nyro. There's a thing on the website, a Laura Nyro website, and I think it's fantastic. I look back, I said, gee, in 66, uh, wow, yeah, I mean, they re-released that. They're re-releasing a thing I did. A fellow named Danny Schloss, he was with Classical Gas, and we did sessions. We did an album with 92 musicians, and they're re-releasing it. I mean, I
Mm,
can't believe it. They're talking about re-releasing so many things. I did an album with Julie called Pure Imagination. That's
mhm.
a re-release. So these are things I did back in the '60s. So for me to feel now, Herb, you're 94 today, you're over the hill. Forget it. Enjoy your last years. For some people, that's great, but I still have that driving desire. If Julie said, "Come on, Herb, we're gonna go on a little tour, just a 10 venue tour," I'd do it tomorrow. I would
Uh-huh.
love it, absolutely love it. So I, I don't know, I can't look at from the time I was 70 and look back and say, well, I want to evaluate what I did. I did a million things wrong, a million stupid things, got in fights that I should never have gotten into, and I like to think I've grown from that. So at 94, uh, honestly, I feel I'm a better person. I appreciate people more than I ever did in my life, and I just feel good about it. I see people's shortcomings, including my own, and I see people have such wonderful attributes, and I so appreciate them as people that it has, age doesn't isn't even a factor, and I'll
Mhm.
keep doing it as long as God lets me stay alive. you know.
Well, that's a beautiful place to conclude and to reflect on where you are at your birthday on this day. And I really thank you so much. I'm so honored to talk with you. You're so candid and so gracious.
Well, thank you. This has been a real pleasure for me.
It's been for all of us who are going to hear this. And um, if anyone wants to get in touch with you and maybe propose that tour that you're talking about,
Right.
where should they find you?
Uh, Good question. Well, you know what? They could find me at the Actors Fun Home. It's
Hmm.
in Englewood, New Jersey. So
Okay.
I'll even give you the address: 155 West Hudson Avenue, Englewood, New Jersey. Just my name. Come to the front desk and they'll give it to me. And sure, I'm happy to talk to people. As you can guess, I like to talk.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. You make it fun.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you, Herb, so much.
my pleasure. Thank you.
God bless. Bye bye.